I like to tell people that I have one of the most fun jobs in all of Atlanta because my job is to create and sustain interest in Midtown as a place where people want to be. And I have a really great team that I get to work with to do all that. And I think we must be doing something right because this is a really great turnout for this event tonight. And I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank the Renaissance Hotel Midtown Atlanta for making this space available. So it's a great agenda, and I think that if we wanted to start with something that for me is really fun, in addition to communicating about what's coming in the future for Midtown, I also really enjoy the archival role that I get to play. I'm not sure if you guys are all aware, but Midtown Alliance will celebrate its 50th anniversary as a going concern in 2028. So it's really cool that there's some momentum around this thing that says that this is built to last, and there's a lot of reasons why, but I get to find those when I look through a collection of probably, I want to say, about 6,000 to 8,000 old photos of Midtown Atlanta, all kinds of things. There's aerial pictures of surface parking lots. There are photos of events where I literally saw someone had trucked in snow on Peachtree Street, and there was a skiing demonstration with the Atlanta Ski Club right down Peachtree, which I don't know that we'll ever see something like that again. But this one in particular, this one is my favorite. So take a minute and check this out. First of all, simpler times, right? So you notice the very bohemian couple at the center of the image there. The guy is doing something that I can no longer do, which is pull off the crop top look, and his partner there has the knit leggings on, and check it out. They're doing something that we don't see a lot of, which is grooving down the sidewalk on roller skates. But let's look at the totality of this image for a minute and why this one sticks out to me of all those thousands of images. Let's start over here. It's a little hard to see from the back of the room, but there is a man walking down the street in a suit and tie. So that represents part of the business community of Midtown, probably circa 1980, when MARTA had just arrived to the district. You look in the foreground here, there are a trio of volunteers that appear to be planting flowers in a tree well, which feels really nice to me because I think this is a good model for how civic engagement and self-starters just decided they wanted to improve a place. And then, of course, there's the things that I can no longer do safely without rechecking my medical insurance. But I think that in totality, this photo really represents Midtown at just ahead of an inflection point, right? So what you don't see in the background are high-rise buildings. You're looking essentially northbound on Peachtree Street, right where 10th Street Park is now, where we just had a very successful gathering of 50 costumed canines for the Mutt Gala, and about 1,500 people that my colleague Derry and Ansley put together, a really great event. But this is really, this still life begins to tell me something here that says that there were people that wanted to self-organize. In the foreground, they were planting those flowers, and that's where I see myself in this photo, is that there were people that wanted to do something and make this neighborhood the best that it could be. And so what happened right after this photo, in the way that I see the chronology, is that there were several things that were just essential to happen. Number one was a community that began to organize itself and say, we want to decide planfully what the future of Midtown can be. It wasn't there yet, but there was a vision that began to form collectively around a community master plan, Blueprint Midtown, that was informed by thousands of people. Ginny and Dan were actually involved in that project these many years ago. And so it led to the largest rezoning in the city's history, which was an important way to start to organize land use and transportation and the quality of life that would follow from those things. And then really importantly, there was a financial lever that absolutely had to be created in order to make this thing work, in order to create the wherewithal for all the improvements on the ground. And that was the formation of the Midtown Improvement District. And so we're at the 25th anniversary now of the formation of the MID, and what it has done to be able to put shovels in the ground and work partnership with the city shoulder to shoulder to create improvements is really nothing short of astounding. So I'm going to forward to the next slide here and say that $170 million of investment from commercial property owners in the district has yielded $20 billion of private investment. And that's the flywheel. That's the start of that flywheel, that momentum that traces back to that original photo that I showed you. So you flash ahead a little bit more, and this is what it looks like now in the place where we are. This is Midtown over an arc of 25 years of infill and densification, and it's wonderful. It's happening because people got involved. They showed up like you guys showed up tonight. So 143 buildings have been delivered. Major projects have been delivered here inside of 1 square mile of the city over the last 25 years. There are 4 more under construction. There are 9 more proposed behind it. And this is the place that we now all get to enjoy. But it didn't always look this way. If you go back to the roller skaters and the flowers being planted, I think that was the earliest part of seeing that if we all get involved and do something together, then we can really make things happen. So let's flash forward here and talk about development and who our new neighbors are going to be. So you may know of the big 4 accounting firms. I'm probably going to fail to name all 4 of them, but they're actually all going to be arriving to Midtown over the course of the next several months. And so the latest one to sign on, in addition to Deloitte and PwC, is the accounting firm Ernst & Young. EY has a presence currently in downtown. They're going to be leaving that building and coming up to Midtown. Philip and I and my colleague Rob and Ryan are excited to get to meet with them in the matter of a few weeks to help with onboarding for thousands of employees that will be taken up at the 1020 Spring Street development. So that's one of Atlanta's newest office buildings, and now there's an anchor tenant there. So Ernst & Young is coming. And then there's another one that I want to point out because I think that if you look in the world that we operate in with market conditions and the measuring sticks, the barometers for health of an urban area that has a lot of office property, we look at vacancy, meaning simply just how much space is available that no one has claimed in a lease, right? So one of the things that's cool is that there is now movement happening, but if you go and look in the foreground here of this shot, this is the Tower Square building, formerly known as the Bell South building or the AT&T building, and it has sat with no tenants in it for the last 6 years as the property owner has looked to reposition the building and update it and try to start fresh. It is one of a handful of buildings that actually weigh down the vacancy number that says that we would like to see them full and occupied, really, with more tenants. But there is a medical device company that is moving within the district, and they're doing something that's a little different in terms of following the office market. When they relocate, they're actually going to take up more office space when they move to the Tower Square building by about 40% than what they had at their previous stop in Midtown. So this is good. This means that there's expansion. There's one tenant. Now if we can just find some ways to help everybody get the word out that there are about 29 more floors that are available, then you're going to start to see some things begin to move here in the district. So that's development in what's happening. And then there's also a really important story that I know that many of you are following. And we are following it too. And I want to make sure to spend a minute on this because this was one of the questions that the group asked in the pre-registering for the meeting here. So the developer for this site has received notification from the city of Atlanta that there is some things that need to be worked on there, right? So we're going to take a minute and kind of unpack this. I want to first just state, in a way that I think we can all, appreciate here. Our organization is very interested in this, as are all of you, to see that forward progress happens on this development site. It's a very important site in the district, and we like the rest of you, want to make sure that the right things are happening to keep it moving forward. At the same time, our organization is a nonprofit, so while we have many connections to the city of Atlanta and the staff there, we are not a regulatory agency. We do not have authority to create influence over private development. Our focus is on the public right of way. We do not have the authority to issue or deny permits, but we really track this issue very closely, as are all of you. So what you'll see if you walk past the site right now is a red label that has been affixed to part of the fence. And from what we understand, though we have not read the city inspector's report, from what we understand, there was a gap in the fence where someone could enter in, and that is what was asked to be remediated. Though we don't know the rest of the details for what's in the findings, and we also don't know what the recourse is that needs to happen. But we also are aware of these things. The construction permits had expired in October of last year. So the city just posted that warning a few days ago that the structure is deemed dangerous and unsafe. The violations relate to a very specific item within the Atlanta Municipal Code, and typically the city will provide owners of properties with a deadline, some kind of window to remediate the deficiencies. And so that's not known to us right now, but we will continue to track these developments. I know that many of you are aware, if you read local media, that some of the residents in Midtown have self-organized to try to create some ways to inform each other, to enroll in communication that can be uplined to city leadership. So you can go find those things online. But we wanted to make sure that you know that just like you, we want to see forward progress on this. And most importantly, we would like to see that there are some answers that become known about the sidewalks that exist on the perimeter of that property, where some of them do not appear to be very navigable right now. And that's going to be an important thing to get remediated as soon as possible. So I hope that helps. Just want to make sure that we could get that question addressed. And then I want to kind of switch gears here and celebrate some anniversaries. So Midtown is a place where we never stand still, but there's also a long legacy of places that are worth celebrating. And this year, as America celebrates its 250th birthday, the High Museum later this year will turn 100. The Atlanta History Center is also 100. The Atlanta Botanical Garden is 50 years old. So these are great. These are anchor institutions that have a presence in Midtown that really make this place special. There's also another anniversary coming up. Do you guys remember this? Does anybody in the room remember this character? This was a mascot that was part of one of the proudest moments of our city, but also derided as one of the biggest brand fails that has ever happened with the sports world. So if there's any designers in the room here that were a part of this, I apologize in advance. So we get a chance at a do-over though, because this is Clutch. Clutch is the mascot for the World Cup, for the American part of the World Cup. And so he's a bald eagle. And so we're going to try this thing again and see if we can get it right this time. But we're very excited that the city is getting ready 17 days out from the first match. And I think in a way that is not atypical, because I remember this very clearly 30 years ago during the run-up to the Olympics, that there was a lot of hand-wringing and worrying that we weren't going to be ready. That there was going to be this moment when it was going to be here and we weren't going to be ready. And I believe that you can see the conditions on the ground right now, all the paving, all the positive things that are happening, that we're going to get there because we have to. And that's really out of necessity. Midtown Alliance has been involved for the last 12 to 15 months with the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau as part of the Hospitality Committee. And we just had our final meeting today. So we're getting ready, and Rob's going to do a little bit of an intro here to what's coming to the neighborhood and how we can get ready.
All right, so Brian said we're going to talk about the tournament, but my real job is to not make you scared about traffic today. A brief refresher of what is to come. Atlanta is one of 16 host cities across Canada, USA, and Mexico that is hosting World Cup matches. So I've heard it said that we are hosting the World Cup, like that's partially true, but 15 other places are hosting the World Cup as well. We are hosting 8 matches, which sounds like a lot. We have 8 matches over 30 calendar days. That is 8 out of a total of 104 tournament matches. So that gives you a scale of what we have versus those other 15 cities. We have 5 group stage matches where essentially this is preliminary round, pool play type of competition, and then we'll hold 3 elimination round games, including a tournament semifinal, which is a really big deal for us. So this is an overview of the schedule. All of the matches take place at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which will be renamed Atlanta Stadium for the duration of the tournament because Mercedes-Benz didn't pay up to FIFA. Anyways, so familiar venue to many of us, and additionally, during the World Cup, so we have 8 match days. For all of those 8 match days, there will be a fan festival taking place at Centennial Olympic Park. In addition, there will be 10 more dates where that fan festival will be taking place. So over the 30 calendar days, there will be 18 days where there will be a fan fest happening in Centennial Olympic Park. This is the official watch party venue. It's a ticketed event. Tickets are free. They're still available, but it is a ticketed event that you have to find a ticket for. This is the official watch party. You'll hear that term thrown around all over the place. Lots of businesses, neighborhoods, restaurants, etc. will hold watch parties, but this will be the real big activation. So when we talk about what to expect, there are some crazy numbers that have been thrown around. Atlanta will welcome millions of visitors. Are we really welcoming like half of the metro's population at one point? No. The stadium didn't magically get bigger for the World Cup. They didn't truck in a whole bunch of seats at Mercedes-Benz. So this gives you an expectation of how many visitors we can expect. So the stadium's capacity, the daily capacity at the Centennial Park for FanFest is 15,000 ticketed guests. So in comparison, we put some other crowd events up on this slide to kind of help you just set expectations for how many folks will be visiting for those events. So comparables that we found are the Copa America, which is another large international soccer tournament that took place 2 summers ago, the College Football Playoff National Championship, which we hosted 2 years ago. We also hosted the semifinal this past year. Dragon Con, which takes place at the same time as an SEC football game in downtown each Labor Day. And then, of course, everyone's favorite 4 nights of Beyonce. This kind of helps us understand what we're dealing with here. So I want to kind of just settle some fears that we are not about to be overrun with millions of visitors at any given time. Again, all of our visitors we spread out over 30 calendar days for eight what we call match days in the downtown area. And so to kind of help understand and communicate this, we went back and looked at traffic conditions for some of these other events, these Copa America games or the College Football National Championship. And what we typically found was that the majority of traffic and congestion were contained to downtown surface streets. And in general, traffic peaked about from an hour right up until the beginning of the event, and then from the event to an hour after. That was kind of the peak load in and load out times before and after games. We noticed increased levels of traffic, about 3 hours before and 3 hours after the events. But really, what you would notice as a driver or someone on foot really peaked an hour before and an hour after. So this is a helpful slide that our friends at the Atlanta Regional Commission put together that helps you, if you work in an office or you oversee employees, just understand when to expect our biggest impacts in terms of traffic. So what I want to point out is we have 8 matches. 6 of those matches are happening during the week. Okay, so 2 of them are on weekdays. Of those 6 matches, 4 of them take place at noon. So when we back up to what I just said about our expected load in, load out times, noon matches are probably not going to have impacts on our AM or PM commutes to a typical kind of 9 to 5 office time. So we would expect the impact for those noon kickoffs to be relatively small and pretty much contained to the downtown area. The 2 dates that I want to have you kind of make a plan ahead for are Wednesday the 24th, which has a 6 p.m. kickoff, and then Wednesday, July the 15th, which is our semifinal game. We expect probably the largest supply of fans for that match. It's a 3 p.m. Wednesday afternoon kickoff. So make a plan with your team, whether that's kind of adjusting hours, trying transit, things like that for those particular days. Those were the days that maybe we might notice more traffic during the workday here on the surface streets of Midtown. But again, for those Beyonce concerts and Copa America games, most of what we would experience is contained to the downtown area. A couple other things just to notice. The City of Atlanta introduced their new integrated traffic command center where they can adjust traffic signals remotely. So if they are noticing certain roads backing up, they can adjust the timing of traffic signals and communicate with officers that are on the ground. There are no lane closures or road closures planned for Midtown during the World Cup. The only 2 areas where there are planned road closures are the immediate vicinity of the stadium. There are like 2 little side streets essentially that are closed with the security perimeter for the stadium. And then there will be some lane reductions around Centennial Olympic Park to provide safer conditions for pedestrians, for fans who are walking from the stadium to the Fan Fest and et cetera. So we don't need to be worried about roads being closed or anything like that in Midtown. Really the minimal road closures that there are contained to downtown. So what will also be improved during the tournament is MARTA's service. Expect really elevated services from MARTA, especially on match days. There will be trains that depart every 5 minutes, meaning that if you are taking any of the Midtown stations where two lines run, the red line and the gold line, you can expect a train during match days every 2.5 minutes. So really elevated service for MARTA. You also see next to me a photo of MARTA's new train cars. It's expected that these will roll out next Thursday, June the 4th, is when the first small batch of rail cars are expected to go into service. During the tournament, MARTA will also have transit ambassadors at every station. They'll be in these really cool soccer jerseys. They'll be stationed at really every Midtown, downtown area station, providing multilingual support to our visitors and really helping folks understand the Better Breeze system, how to navigate to and from their hotel, to the airport, and of course to the stadium and the Fan Fest downtown. And then finally, these have started going in. MARTA has done a lot of wayfinding and branding and just kind of more decorative signage at their stations. This is what Peachtree Center will look like, and some of this signage has already gone into Peachtree Center. And I want to say that if you want a memento from the World Cup, MARTA is releasing 100,000 World Cup themed Breeze cards. That sounds like a lot, but when you think about how many folks go to the games and how many folks will cycle in and out of Midtown and in and out of downtown, you might want to be at the front of the line if you want a commemorative World Cup themed Breeze card this summer. So keep an eye out for those. I know they'll be a hot item. And we're really excited kind of for the elevated levels of service that MARTA will be offering during the tournament. And next, I will turn it back over to Brian. He'll talk about what we're doing to support public life during the World Cup.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. All right. So we're really lucky to have transportation experts that are embedded in our staff that work with hundreds of employers, residential buildings around Midtown. So these are the guys in the know if you're ever looking for some information on transportation. I'm going to just really quickly pivot over to some things that we're going to be doing in support of the neighborhood for small businesses, food and beverage, hotels, arts and cultural venues. We've created a platform for our visitors and residents, frankly, and locals to all be able to say that Midtown is a place where you can go if you want to be in the action. It's also a place you can go if you want to be away from the action. We have it all here in this walkable urban place that is only a mile away from the stadium, but is also really fun to spend time here in the days between the matches. So our theme is Find Your Match in Midtown. And the way that you'll start to see things happen, particularly digitally first, is a mobile-friendly version of a map where people can look to see where are bars, restaurants, hotel bars, other venues with screens showing matches on TV so that you can go find some friends and go hang out and have a good time. We're also really trying to help drive a lot of traffic to an event that my colleagues are putting on June 18th. So the movie night series, outdoor movie nights, are going to be back this year. Really excited to see that on June 18th, you can come out with us and hang out, and we're going to be screening Bend It Like Beckham to get in the spirit. That was Keira Knightley at a really early stage of her career. But we're very fortunate to have sponsors, and my colleagues Philip and Derry have worked really hard to try to create some interest among the corporate partners that are around here to get some subsidized help with these events. There will be more scheduled for the fall. But we hope you can make it out on June 18th to come and celebrate the start of soccer with us in Atlanta. In addition, we have a really full events calendar. This is the second most visited page on our website behind only the home page. And this is where we want people to know that you can go to search directly for things that are happening in Midtown that will get you in the spirit of World Cup. I also want to make a quick mention that in terms of public safety and security during the tournament and anytime really, Midtown Blue is here. This is a supplemental public safety program that we work on in partnership with APD. It has operated continuously for 25 years now. And so it's important to know that for World Cup specifically APD officers will be working 12-hour shifts, so they're going to have longer shifts and more of them. And we also are told that the city of Atlanta was awarded a $52 million grant from the Department of Homeland Security to have augmented security here for the games. So while all that is happening, the good news for us is that no officers are anticipated to be pulled away from Zone 5 where Midtown is located, so that we will get to have all the things that we have here on a normal day during the games. But here's another thing to just kind of keep in mind, and I think that we cannot reinforce this enough. Midtown remains one of the safest places in all of the city, and you can see by the numbers, and this is analysis of thousands of crime reports to understand what happened. Did people that were involved in an incident, know each other? Were there things that we can discern from this to understand that the rate of crime has declined each year for the past 5 years? I'm going to say this part, which I think is always news to people, but 92% of all the crime in Midtown is nonviolent property crime. And so I think that as you consider that in that rendering I showed you of all the colored buildings and all the people that are here, 100,000 people spend time here on a given day. And we have very low rates of crime relative to the number of people that are here. Also, just in terms of the long-term trends, as population has grown, the crime in Midtown is down 72% over the past 30 years. So this is really important to acknowledge that something is going right here. We need to keep going. We need to keep going, and we need your help to let us know when you see something that looks out of place. Call it into 911 and then call Midtown Blue. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Dan Horrigan. Dan is our Director of Transportation and Sustainability, and he's going to get you caught up on some really important things to know about transportation in Midtown.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, you ready for some more stats and graphs? Here we go. Brian just, showed you our crime stats. We do this regularly at these meetings and other meetings. We really haven't talked about, traffic safety from a district perspective. We talk about this all the time when we're planning corridor projects. We look at the number of crashes for the past 3 years or whatever, and that influences how we design a project. But we really haven't looked at the stats from a district-wide perspective, and so we did that. We've done that. Laura on our team, Laura, wherever you are, raise your hand. Laura has spent hours poring through every traffic report or crash report over the last year, and we benchmarked those stats from previous years to have a better understanding of where our issues are, why they're happening, and those are things that we can use to implement solutions to those issues. So really, without further ado, everyone's familiar with this. So just starting at a high level, the total number of crashes in the district, and we looked back pre-COVID from 2019 through 2025, and obviously we've gone down. If you just look at 2019 to last year, we've gone down 20%, which is a great reduction. But as you can see, it's starting to creep back up a little bit, and I think some of that can be explained by Midtown's growth, more and more people coming back to the office to work. But there are some things that we want to, pay attention to here. In terms of where crashes are happening, they're happening all over the place, but really they're focused mostly on our north-south and some of our major east-wests, like 10th Street, 14th Street, 17th Street, North Avenue. These are the busy corridors that lead you to and from the interstates, right? Some of these are GDOT right-of-way, but the good news is we're working on virtually every one of these corridors to make them safer, and that's what we do. The goals for our capital projects are safety is number one. So again, nearly 20% of all these crashes resulted in an injury. So of all those crashes, that's like 6 crashes every day. in the district. And many of those have folks getting injured, and so that's an issue. In terms of non-vehicular, so we're talking about crashes that involve a person on foot, bike, wheelchair, scooter. These are going up and pretty fast. So 116 last year, a pretty significant jump over time. In terms of the breakdown of those different modes, I mean, we had to dive into every crash report to understand what happened here, but it's roughly equal. Scooters are a little bit ahead in terms of the percentage of that are involved in a crash. And so I guess what I want to leave on this topic is really three things. One, that most crashes are preventable. There's always going to be knucklehead drivers, people on bikes, whatever, right? There's always going to be knuckleheads, but there's design solutions to these things that can make people slow down a little bit. So maybe they have a crash, but that crash doesn't result in an injury, right? So that's how we look at this, and then third, we're seeing progress. The projects that we are implementing, Juniper Street, for example, we've looked back from January 1 to today. The numbers are looking better than they were last year. We're slowing down traffic. We're making shorter crossing distances, safer places for people on scooters and bikes to be. And so the work that we're doing is working. If you want more detail, there's a lot more detail in this report. You can scan that QR code and get there. You can get there from our website as well. Next, I'm going to cover capital projects really quickly here. There's a lot going on. And I think, knock on wood, this will be the last time we report out on the construction of Juniper Street. I think we can all celebrate that. It's been a long time coming, but it's looking great. We're in the final punch list phase of this project. Parking meters were recently installed and activated, which means the problems that we're having with delivery vehicles blocking travel lanes, they now have a place to be. And now that those spaces are metered and people have to pay, they're not full of people who are just coming here commuting and parking. And so there's spots for them. And so we're seeing improvement in that. We know the issue, and we're seeing improvement in that issue. Spring Street. This is the part of Spring Street North, so from Peachtree Street down to 17th Street. This project includes all new sidewalks, new street trees where there were virtually none. It was a pretty inhospitable place. Stormwater planters, new lights, and a protected bike lane. And so this project, again, is in punch list phase, about 85% complete, and should be done within the next few months. The 15th Street Extension Project, another long-standing project. This project extends 15th Street from where it terminated at West Peachtree Street and goes all the way to William Street. So for those of you who are in the northern part of Midtown that typically get onto 14th Street to go on the highway, this is a great relief valve for 14th Street. You'll be able to get to William Street up I-75 quickly. It also has all the amenities that we provide: trees, wide sidewalks, bike lanes, etc. This is looking towards William Street. And so this project should wrap up in the next quarter or two. The 10th Street Bridge project, another major gateway for Midtown, handles a lot of traffic. It also handles a lot of people on foot, bike, going to and from Georgia Tech and the MARTA station. And it's a pretty hostile place for really everyone. And so we're trying to create a little bit more order to it, a little bit more safety along this corridor. And so, as you can see in this image, that area where that car is kind of seemingly parked on the sidewalk, that's going to be a sidewalk and a protected bike lane. So you've got this concrete barrier between you and the traffic that just got on or off the interstate. You've got that same barrier on the north side of the bridge. We are also making some improvements to William Street in that area with a protected bike lane and improved sidewalks. There will be new trees. The bridge fencing will be replaced with something really lovely and decorative. So that's, there's a lot to like about this project, and we are probably 6 or 8 months from completion on that. Piedmont Avenue, this is the sister project to the Juniper Street project. This has a little bit lighter touch than Juniper, so it will happen more quickly. There are sidewalk improvements, lighting, a protected northbound bike lane. This project, they're working on the sidewalks on the west side between 5th and 10th Streets today. So this project should be done in the first quarter of 2027. So coming along. West Peachtree and Spring Street. This is part of a kind of a multi-phase project. The phase that's going on right now is part of the city's repaving of West Peachtree from downtown all the way up to 14th Street. They're doing it because of the World Cup, and we twisted their arm to get them to include our bike lane aspects and other aspects of the project into their paving project, and so thankfully they were able to do that. And so they're coming along. What you see here, the green is obviously the bike lane. That's actually not painted. That's just me drawing that in PowerPoint. So you get the feel for where it is. And then the kind of the beige area is a bus loading platform for the express buses that come up and down the corridor. And that's another bus loading platform that is actually concrete. This is outside of the Center for Visually Impaired. So you'll see a few of those as well. Parking is retained along the corridor, and we transition a travel lane to this protected bike lane. And then finally, projects that are not yet under construction but coming. I'm just going to focus on this one for now. This is 15th Street, which picks up at West Peachtree and goes east towards Piedmont Avenue. Here's what it will look like when we're done in about 2 years. So again, this is mostly between the curbs, so protected bike lane, new signalization, improved traffic flow, and better safety for all. So if you want more information on any of these projects and others that we're teeing up, you can go to midtownatl/projects or scan that QR code. So now I have the opportunity to turn it over to Jenny, who's going to talk about Midtown Green.
Hi everybody. It's 10 till 7. You're probably thirsty and hungry and ready to wrap this up. So I am here to talk to you about art and nature and social life. I don't have any charts or graphs. I hope I can hold your attention for 10 minutes. Let's see. The slide behind me is our big project. I've worked at Midtown Alliance for, 15 or 17 years. I mean, I lost track of time. This is the most exciting thing I've ever been involved with in my career. It's singly the most transformative opportunity for Midtown and in some ways for Atlanta. So we've been working hard on it for a little over a year. We bought it a year ago, 4 acres on 14th Street. We spent a ton of money, $46 million to buy this site that had sat there forever, getting worse and worse and worse by the day. Now people think we should buy Campanile, we're like the fixers, we come in and make it better. So what's happening right now, I think I want to clear up any confusion. We are grading and clearing and getting ready to plant seed and sod to invite every single one of you back to this site this summer. This is an interim phase, temporary stuff. But it's going to be nice, and it's going to be a great way to take a shortcut from 14th Street to 15th Street. It's going to be a great place to meet a friend for lunch, walk your dog, toss a frisbee, catch some sun. But it is very much a temporary phase. So we are excited. I'm going to quickly share with you the vision for what the long-term goal for this site is. But between this temporary phase and our bold vision, we've got to raise a lot of money, and we've got a lot of work to do. So I'm going to just invite you to come up to any one of us after this meeting, reach out to me personally through email at Midtown Alliance. I'm not going to be able to cover everything I'd love to share with you tonight, but I'm always available to answer questions. I have to do one detour though. Okay, so I told you I was going to talk about art, nature, and social life. I'm going to quickly talk about art. One of the things that we do in Midtown, in addition to solving transportation issues and trying to make Midtown a safer place, is to add beauty to the district. And I'm super excited to ask you guys to notice, if you haven't already, a brand new mural that went up on All Saints Church. You can see it on Spring Street if you're heading south. It's a really vibrant, colorful mural done by Aisha Pennerman, who's one of our artists in residence. And this is the kind of work that we do that might not make your property more valuable or make it easier to get to work, but I think it certainly sparks joy when you're out and about in the district. Lauren Radman on my team has been working for the last 5, 6, 7 years on delivering these kinds of beautiful mural projects in the district. This was a particularly fun one because we asked the community what gave them hope, and everybody that responded told us what gave them hope. That those messages got woven into this mural, and this mural has a 3D component of beautiful, colorful doves that span across what's otherwise a pretty forgettable parking deck. So this is the kind of, I think, really vital work that we do to make Midtown feel good when you're out on the street. So I'm gonna say that the invitation that we gave to ask you guys what gives you hope is the same invitation I'm offering tonight, which is what would get you off your sofa, what would get you out of your office, what would get you excited to come visit this space. So this is the big vision, but like I said, in the meantime, in about a month, at the end of June, we're going to be done with our temporary improvements. It's going to take a little bit of extra time for the grass to grow in, so you can't head out there with your dogs until probably mid-July. But we are going to kick off this site with a formal event for the public on Thursday, August 27th, with a lunchtime event with food trucks, pop-up chefs, maybe some vendors. We're going to have picnic tables and umbrellas for shade, and we want you guys to think of this as your own backyard. You know, it's a little bit closer to you maybe than Piedmont Park, and it's there for your enjoyment. So figuring out how to bring it to life while we raise the money and finish our design work for the big vision is where you could really help us. We've got lots of ideas about fitness and music and art and movies, but the main thing is, we really want to keep hearing from you about the things that you're interested in participating in. We did this big vision over the course of about 5 months with an amazing team that was led by Field Operations. And Field Operations is a really internationally known landscape architecture firm. You might know them if you've been on the High Line in New York City. That's one of their projects, but they've worked all over the world and all over the United States. They brought with them architects, sound engineers, cultural consultants, fountain designers, civil engineers. I mean, it was a really robust team of experts that help us take 4 acres, sitting fallow, waiting for something magical. And with this broad array of talent, we came up with something that I'm really proud of. So the site is on 14th Street. It's really in the heart of Midtown, in the heart of the arts. It's across from the Four Seasons Hotel. You probably know it. You can see it on this map of our one square mile district. If you kind of zoom in a little bit, you start to realize that, we're not kidding when we say it's in the heart of the arts. It's got art and cultural venues around it. It's got some of the city's most iconic towers on its edges. It steps away from the Art Center MARTA station. It would be the terminus of the Art Walk, which we started a couple of years ago. It's really got so many geographic advantages. It's also got a lot of challenges. So not the least of which is the fact that there's 70 feet of grade change across the site. So topographically, it is it's challenging. And you've got surrounding property owners with their own sets of agendas and aspirations and ideas on three sides of the site. So in order to make this really impactful, we asked the team to think big and think beyond the 4-acre boundary and think about what this site could do for Midtown and what it could do for Atlanta. So the slide that you see right here shows you what 4 acres looks like. The next slide shows you what 4 acres can do when you start to connect to all the adjacent properties. We really feel like this is an opportunity to take the biggest block in Midtown, a super block is what we call it, and break it down into a set of incredible amenities for the district with amazing connections to Peachtree Street and Colony Square, to 15th Street and the Arts Center, MARTA Station and the Woodruff Arts Center, across 14th Street to 4 hotels and the Art Walk. It's an incredible opportunity that's so much bigger than the site itself. I'd love to spend time and tell you about all the analysis that we did to understand what we're working with on this site. I'll just quickly rattle off the things that you probably know. Light, sound, air, wind, all of the things that will impact this site every day of the year and throughout the seasons of the year. So we actually did a lot of work last summer with Thompson, Vinchelette, and Standback. TBS was an amazing resource to us early in the project. A local firm based at Promenade helped us do some of this analysis. And we learned a lot. We learned, where things on the site should go to take advantage of how to buffer sound, how to take advantage of when the light hits the site, how to use the muscular topography to our advantage. And what we wound up with is a site that is anchored by several key components. So I'm gonna walk you through those. This is the vision, zooming out again, and these are the pieces. So the first piece is central to the site in the lowest portion of the site. This is a central performance area. It's an amphitheater with terrace seating. It's a beautiful pavilion that will become, I think, iconic for the city of Atlanta and a real focal point for Midtown. It's a place that the central performance area can flex to accommodate up to 800 people. If you were packed in there like sardines to see something really special. But it also will work well on a daily basis when there's not a big performance and maybe you're just hanging out on the seating terraces, meeting a friend for lunch. The next piece of this puzzle is the pedestrian ribbon that winds its way through the site that's a continuation of the Art Walk. The Art Walk is a project that we started at 10th Street to 11th Street. It's a pedestrian promenade. It invites you to move through the district off of Peachtree Street. That will be an important connection between 14th and 15th. And then Field Operations calls the red things on this map botanical balconies. These are really amazing terraces that provide unique view sheds into the site. It's a place to stand and look across this 4 acres and see what's going on. It's a place to see and be seen, but they're also places for performances in their own right. So while a major performance might happen in the central performance space, that big pink oval, these botanical balconies are set up to host smaller things. Storytelling, a small jazz combo, spoken word or comedy, or just watching the theater of Midtown. Woven through all this is an incredibly lush and verdant landscape. So this will not only be an activated site with a lot of cultural and art amenities to attract you, but it's going to be a beautiful space, very garden-like and rich, both in forest elements, Atlanta's a city in a forest, and botanical elements, things like you might expect to see at the Botanical Garden. Art is going to be a real anchor to this space, and I think what we're excited about is we're so proud that Midtown is really, in the Southeast, it's got the largest concentration of art and culture of any city its size. Much of that art and culture you have to buy a ticket to see, so we're really excited to create a space where art is accessible every day. This view that you see on the screen right now is from 14th Street. So this would sort of, in essence, be like the pedestrian arrival into this site if you came into the site from 14th Street. And this big wall that you see could be animated with a kinetic sculpture, wind activated. It could also be a video screen. It could have signage telling you about all the incredible art and cultural events happening across the district. So there are select high profile, really impactful moments where art, I think, can be an attraction and something that's always inviting you to come back to see what's new. The pavilion is definitely a focal point, and it's something that is visually striking during the day. It can be animated in the evening. This rendering shows you what the seating experience is like immediately opposite it. So we've built in 2 food and beverage experiences into this site. One is a casual cafe that's on axis with the pavilion, and these tables and chairs are at that cafe. There's another larger one that I'll show you in just a minute. But this is a space that works for lunchtime. It works for, taking your laptop outside, meeting a friend for lunch. It works for a watch party. If only we had it for the World Cup, but we'll have it for things in the future. It works for movie nights. Movie nights, Bend It Like Beckham is coming in June, and that's one of our most popular events that we do. We're oversubscribed every time. We pack 200 people sometimes into the 10th Street Park. So we're super excited to have something at this scale to invite people. And then, just live music performance. Imagine coming here, date night, you listen to some music, you see beautiful projections on the pavilion. It's really something that I think could become a beacon in our city. So the after dark experience is just as important as what happens during the day. We're so blown away in Midtown by a lot of the evening light activations. We have Midtown Bright during the holidays, and that's always something that's so beautiful in the district. The Botanical Gardens does an amazing light show. There's so much art that can be woven into the landscape through beautiful creative lighting, and that's going to be a big part of the experience here. I wanted to just show you like a diagram that gives you a sense of how this space can flex as needed. This is you're packed in like sardines to see some really hot ticket. There are 800 of you guys out here. This is a dense performance experience. But this is what it might look like on a Saturday. It's a smaller experience. You're spread out on the lawn. You're hanging out, and this is what it might look like if you're a kid on a field trip who just went to the High Museum, and now you've got your bagged lunch, and you're going to come eat it in our park space after you've seen some art with your teachers for the morning. So the space is really meant to work throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the seasons. It's meant to be ageless. It's meant to not only be an attraction for Midtown, but something that's special for all of Atlanta. There's so many views of how the space can be enjoyed. This one is a great one because even though it's zoomed pretty far out and things are small, if you look in the middle of this slide, you can see a long linear building that snugs up next to that giant parking deck. That's a new piece of architecture that we'd add to the site. So there's sort of 2 big architectural moves. One is the pavilion, the other is this linear building. And inside of that building, there would be indoor community meeting space. There could be rentable space on the roof for private events. There would be food and beverage in the form of a restaurant and cafe experience with a lot of outdoor dining on that patio. There'd be public restrooms, a new thing for the Midtown Improvement District. We don't have those in Atlanta, and they'd be amazing. They're going to have fresh flowers and an attendant inside. They're going to be super clean, and you're going to be excited to tell your friends to use them. And there's going to be Midtown Alliance office space. So part of the big trick here, aside from raising the money to build it, is continuing to operate it at a level that we can all be proud of. And we feel like having our offices and all of our operations located on site is going to be a great way to do that. One really cool thing that's going to happen this summer is Midtown Blue and the green team are going to move into the former sales center on the site. So we will have a presence of public safety and environmental maintenance on the site all the time, beginning in August. And I think that's going to be a really great thing in the short term and an amazing asset in the long term. I mentioned that these botanic balconies are not just places to see and be seen, but they're intended as smaller performance venues in their own right. And this slide gives you a sense of what that could look like. I mean, there's so much I could tell you. I feel like you guys just probably need to invite me over for dinner. And I could come to your houses and you could make me a cocktail and I can tell you more about this. I could raise some money. So let me just, okay, it's 7:10. We're just gonna start clicking. Here's the pavilion. Has anyone been to the Sphere in Las Vegas? This is some sort of what I imagine. I mean, it's gonna be, spectacular. So it's just a shell, it's a big 50-foot shell. It's it was inspired by a magnolia blossom. So, it has a connection to our ecology and our landscape. But I think that what's exciting about this to us is what it can do for us and how it can come to life. And I think that's the way that we view art here. We want art to be something that's discovered constantly, changing often, and integrated into the landscape. Midtown and the city of Atlanta as a city in a forest has been one of our themes for a long time. That will not be lost here. There will be tons of verdant landscaping. There will be a water feature. You guys, when we survey and you tell us what you want, water features at the top of the list. But food and beverage, we feel like, is going to be a key anchor. We feel like that's what gets people to linger. And so this is another view of that linear building next to the parking deck and what it might feel like to sit out there, have sort of the catbird seat looking over this entire space, having dinner. So this is a really complicated thing for us. We're doing things we've never done before, like restaurants. So we're talking to food and beverage operators to figure out how we can create something that's uniquely Midtown, authentically of us. We don't want this to feel generic. We don't want this to feel like a chain. We want it to be something unique and interesting. And again, I invite you, if you've been somewhere and you've experienced something that really struck a chord, we want to know about it. This place, while it's going to have, the amazing pavilion and the projections and the food and beverage, it's also meant to be a place that's woven into your everyday routines. One of the easiest ways for us to do that is to invite you to experience this from a wellness perspective. In addition to movies that Derry does, she also runs our yoga program in 10th Street Park. We get tons of yogis to come out and sweat it out on that AstroTurf lawn. Imagine doing it in this setting. We can probably accommodate almost 200 people here if we needed to. And we feel like fitness is a key to getting people to come to this space again and again. I guess I could probably close out here. There's some social gardens within the site that are really beautiful, intimate spaces. So while the 4 acres feels pretty vast and it is large, the site is meant to work at a number of scales. The social gardens are smaller spaces, heavily landscaped, anchored by art. They work daytime and at night. They're perfect places for families during the day, but again, it's a date night hotspot if you're there on the weekends. So I think I'm gonna put a pin in it because it's getting late. But I would really, Jenny Kennedy, Jenny, Ginny, at midtownatl.com. Drop me a line. I'm happy to talk about this forever at your house, over email. Just call me. And this is a hugely transformative project. We have a lot of work to do, but what has made it so strong up to this point is all of the feedback that we've gotten from you. And as I was scanning the crowd earlier, I recognized a number of people that came to our event at MODA in January. We got so much incredible feedback about the kinds of experiences and the types of amenities that you all want. So this is meant to reflect yourselves back to you. What would make you see yourself in this space? We've got plenty of time to keep adding things and refining, so let me know. Thanks.
Well, thank you all for coming, and thank you to my colleagues. What an incredible place to work. Jenny, Dan, Brian, Rob, what an incredible presentation. If you have questions, we're here to answer them for you while we're here at the building. And thank you again to the Renaissance Atlanta Midtown Hotel for hosting and sponsoring this event. And thank you all for coming out. We are open anytime for your questions, membership at Midtown ATL, or email any of them. We're all here. And thank you all for coming again. Just a few days to the World Cup.